Hey everyone, welcome back to Express Light. This is Marilee, and today I'm joined with Chad Free. He is the owner of Black Diamond Money Moves. If you are looking for any financial tips in business and just startup wise, I know a lot of times we jump into business, we don't always have the answers when it comes to finances. Chad is your go-to person. He has so much knowledge and he's just a great down-to-earth individual. Chad and I met at in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at an event called Monster Nation put on by Coach Michael Burt and Natalie Burt, wonderful couple and he's America's coach, and we just connected very well. At that event, he has a beautiful wife, Dana, and they're a little bit opposite of us. They live on the East Coast where we're from the West Coast. They have 2 boys, we have 2 girls, so it's kind of fun. We've met and we just kind of hit it off. You're gonna love Chad. So Chad, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited for my listeners to hear from you. First off, I kind of want to start off because I love to share business stories. So give us a little background of, kind of how you got into financing, what your struggles were, what you faced, and then really what brought you to starting Black Diamond Money Moves and your mission and your heart for serving people the way you do now.
First of all, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to being your guest. So I'm glad we finally got connected and we're doing this. So I'm honored to be here. And yeah, so wow. I'm just going to take you all the way back if I could. My mom, it starts with my childhood. I'm a product of my mom and my dad, really. So my mom always gave me them hugs and kisses and told me how special I am. If she gets anywhere near me now, I'm going to get that hug and kiss from her. And
Good old moms.
yeah, I just absolutely love that. My dad was on the other side of the spectrum, just stone cold hustling machine. And as a child, you're like, can I get a little bit of what my mom is showing me from my dad, right? But he taught me a lot just by me observing him. And he always said 3 things: never take advantage of people, stand up for people being took advantage of, and celebrate people's successes. So if he said that once, he said it 100 times. So I listened. And I do love encouraging people, but I have a very protective spirit about me, and that'll kind of reveal itself on why I do what I do when I get to that point in the financial industry. So I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I graduated from college in 98 and got my first job and knew that I was going to have to own my own business to get where I'm trying to go. And so that's when the entrepreneur inside of me started, right? So my mid-20s, I owned a part of a business. And at one point in time, I had all kind of different businesses, but I was like a walk-in circus, right? I could take care of your home. I could ship packages to you. I was a partner in a FedEx company. And then I started dabbling into selling decks and fences. And about the time that the housing market kind of hit bottom, just after 2008, 9, or 10, I said, I want to do something completely different. And that's when I found the financial industry. And once I got involved in that, I didn't really have the mentorship to lead, guide, and direct me. So I had to figure it out on my own. And there was a time that I'm that guy that always was knocking on doors. What's the next best thing? What's the best thing? What are people doing how can I separate myself? And then I found it. And there's a whole nother level of planning that takes place kind of above a threshold, what I like to say. And it's almost like, if you didn't know any better, it was meant for the people who had a lot of money. But yet it's available to everyone. And the reason that most people don't know about these strategies is because, to be frank, it's not profitable for the financial industry. But yet those in the financial industry take advantage of that as a consumer for themselves and their families. They really don't promote it a whole lot um, to the public because it's not as profitable. So that's where my protective spirit kind of comes out. I have a problem with that, especially when there are other strategies that are so much better for a lot of Americans.
Mhm.
So I've kind of made it my mission to really educate people on what all is out there and what all is available to folks. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, I would agree with you that there really is a lack of education. I mean, and it's funny because you kind of point out how you were so involved in many different aspects, but I feel like when you have that entrepreneur spirit, you're just jumping out to see, where you can make money and the ways you can be the most successful. And sometimes you jump in and you roll with starting a business and then you're like, well, now what? And there's so much involved with finances and being able to be prepared, tax wise and everything else, that as a startup, if you didn't get that education and schooling, or, have a parent or somebody that really kind of had that knowledge, you're at a loss. And I think a lot of people get stagnant and that's where some businesses fail. So, I mean, I am grateful that you're here today because I do have a lot of listeners that are startups, and I know that we can all use some wonderful tips. So like, if you are going to speak in a sense of how to best set yourself up as you're starting out, what would be like 3 to 5 tips that you would share to the startup to be able to have, success from the get-go?
Yeah, so it's funny that you asked that question because I think most folks would expect a financial answer, but I think that's far from the truth. And this is where me and we kind of connected. I think it starts with purpose.
Mhm.
I think it starts with purpose. That is my mission now. Just because you're good at something and you feel like you can start a business, is your heart in that business?
Right.
Because you're going to fail. To be successful, you're gonna fail, right?
Mhm.
And the fear of failure has caused so many people not to succeed because they don't want to face failure.
Right.
But when you lose, you really need to learn, right?
Mhm.
Failure is just a part of it, and that's where we get better. So I have really, really, really started talking to people about you need to pursue that purpose.
Mhm.
You need to pursue the purpose in who God created you to be. And when I did that, everything changed.
Mhm.
Everything changed. Money was no longer my source that drove me.
Mhm.
Money, because here's the deal about entrepreneurs and people who are starting businesses. If we're honest with ourselves, we just want to be successful and provide the best life that we can for our family.
Mhm.
And that was me for years and years and years. And there's nothing wrong with that. But see, I was blinded.
Mhm.
And that's why I wear this wake up shirt. We need to wake up and instead of focusing on surviving, we need to pursue our purpose, who we were created to be, and we can truly profit from that purpose. And it's like that alignment just really, 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 um, it just makes for a whole lot better mission that you can get up every day. Because when you get knocked down and you don't feel that sense of purpose, sometimes we just want to lay down and we want to marinate in it and we just want to focus on the things we can't control, and well, just didn't shake out in our favor. And so the very first thing that I think is important is, what is your purpose? And is your heart really involved in what you're starting up here? Because when you get knocked down, you got to understand, you got to get right back up. And that's the only ones that are going to be successful are those who get back up when they
Mhm.
get knocked down.
And I love that you bring this up because part of me, you bring out the homeschool mom in me. And one thing that I love about the fact that I was able to homeschool my kids is they were able to take off with what they were interested in, what they love doing, and really kind of explore that more. And I feel like it's an education lack in a lot of sense. You know, we grow up feeling like we've got to cross all the T's as we're going through school and, you know, get that scholarship and get into school and get the education that's out there. But is there really a program that says, what do you love doing and what do you pursue? You know, there's the sports and there's all these options, but kids just get put into this routine, and then we get into, you know, growing up and taking those college classes and stuff. But I think there's a point where you hit the nail, where you're like, you reach a point in life where you're going, what am I good at? What do I really love doing? And that's so important, that question.
It is. And the folks who I have worked with who are most successful, they had some kind of disruption in their life that created, you know, Coach Burt talks about this, a conviction in their life.
Mhm.
And then that conviction causes them to take action. So they experience a revelation or a disruption, whatever, and then that creates a conviction, and then that causes them to take action. And it's almost like life 2.0.
Mhm.
So if we think about this, exactly what you said, we're programmed to go out here and do this, and this, because that's what we're taught.
Mhm.
And so really, I don't know when that life 2.0 kicks in. For me, it was at the age of 45 years old.
Mhm.
So I spent all of this time, and I'm going to share this with you because I think it's important. I talked about, we always look, what field is out there that has the most profit? And as kids, I think that, I mean, I wanted to make my parents proud,
Mhm.
period. I wanted, the people that I looked up to, I wanted to make them proud, and I wanted to let them know that their investment in me is good. I'm good for it, right?
Mhm.
But the deal with me running and gunning, and with me, there's nothing wrong with hustling. And I mean, I still got the most hustle anybody can have, but it's in its place.
Mhm.
But I had a disruption happen in my life, and I call it a divine disruption. And I didn't even realize that this was happening, but I lost out on a big opportunity. And here I am, the financial guy, and the financial guy was broke, literally. And
Mhm.
I'm established. I have a family. I have 2 kids that are just amazing. I have a beautiful wife, and I'm in my closet on the floor in a fetal position, crying my eyes out because I do not know. I don't know how I'm going to make it. When I say zero, I had no money.
Mhm.
And the very thing, the light at the end of the tunnel that kept driving me, that light went out because of how some contracts were written. And I went all in on this opportunity. And the moment that I really cried out to God was, I told him I needed help.
Mhm.
And it was at that point in time that I heard him tell me, I created you on purpose for a purpose. And this is the point that I want all your listeners to hear, because this is my signature message, and this is what I will die on a mountain telling people is, be who you were created to be. Because the moment I heard God created me on purpose for a purpose, that's on the back of this shirt, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, it was like he sat me down in a chair and showed me a slideshow of my life. And remember, I told you about my dad and how much I looked up to him. And see, he had a house paid for at the age of 35, and he retired from his main business in his late 40s.
Oh.
And so it's like God sat me down in this chair and showed me that slideshow and pretty much revealed to me that I was trying to be like my dad my entire life. And because I was nowhere near hitting the markers that he had hit in his life, I was living my life as a failure and
Mhm.
not successful, because that was the determining factors that I had set for myself of what success looks like. he didn't put that on me, but I was obsessed with that.
Well, and it's almost like this is very typical too, like you mentioned. You get your eyes on the wrong person and you're trying to live up to who another person is or their goals or their abilities, and you're never going to meet that, because you're unique and you have a purpose. And so that alignment, like you're talking about, was just skewed, and it caused that confusion. And I feel like there's so many people this is such an amazing message for, because we have to be who we are created to be. And that's where you really find joy. That's where you find your purpose, and you realize your own uniqueness. And I think it takes a lot of soul searching, like you mentioned, and not being afraid to step out in your own unique creativity. Like, what are you built for? What do you love doing? What are you good at? And find that and do some soul searching and some questioning in your spirit, for sure.
That's exactly right. Because it wasn't until that moment in time that I realized that it was like, honestly, it was like it came out of my pores. I was released, and I didn't even know that I was trapped. I
Mm,
didn't know that that's what I was living for. And so I was living 5, 6, 7 years out from now in the future. If this deal came through and this deal comes through and this happens, we're all going to be okay. Remember, for the sake of my family. But guess
mhm,
what I was missing? I was missing the blessings right in front of me. And I still get emotional talking about it. Um, because it's really made a life change
mhm.
in my whole situation. My kids, man, there is nobody more present.
Right.
When I am so present with my kids, I'm so present with my wife, and I'm intentional with those relationships. And that's what I want for people. The money is, I can show people, look, I started out with all this knowledge, right? And I can show you this strategy, how to get out of debt in a third of the time, build your wealth, and boom, 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 and reduce taxes. I can do all of that,
Mhm.
but I want people to understand that they can put money in its place.
Right.
It doesn't need to be their source, it needs to be their resource.
Right.
And it has a lot to do with money and controlling the controllables. I get people off the hope so planning and I put them on the no so planning,
Mhm.
right? And they're confident in what their money's going to do. And it's just math,
Mhm.
it really is. But yeah, that's my life's mission, is just helping people strive and pursue their purpose. And
So, so
that's what it's
once a
all about.
person, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So once a person, let's say they've, okay, they figured out who they are, you take them through like a 3-step, 5-step, what is the process that you start taking someone down when they are looking to kind of really set themselves up financially in business?
So what I like to do is I usually start out by showing people our approach in planning, and it's different than anything most people see. Um, and that kind of opens their mind. I tell people, I'm like, look, open your mind, because your mind's like a parachute. It works best when it's open, right? You're going to see things you've never seen before, but it's literally just math. And once I show them our approach, then I start asking the questions. And I just want to know, what are they doing now?
Mhm.
And maybe why are they doing it? Or, and what are their goals? We just talk, we have a conversation. And then once I understand that, what they're trying to achieve, then I show them, if they change nothing, this is what they're going to this is what they can expect. And then I take the same strategy of what they're doing, their existing budget, because we don't like to interfere with existing budgets, existing lifestyles. We don't want you to, sell your car and start riding a bicycle to work, right? We
Mhm.
want you to go out to eat for that steak and go date your spouse and all of that. We don't want to change that. Hey, I'm in here to solve problems, not create new ones, right? So we show you how you can still do that and then increase your wealth I mean, literally 30 to 50%
Mm.
just by redirecting your money and implementing some of the strategies that we help you implement. And it's an education. The whole process, once we lay out what we're planning on doing or what the roadmap is, if you will, we use that roadmap to educate the people. And really, again, it's what the ultra wealthy are doing and what they've been doing for decades.
And so what I'm hearing too is what you said in the very beginning, we're all very unique. And so everyone who goes through your program is going to have their own custom built for them system, because everyone has different outlooks and strategies and plans. So there's not like, you're stuck in this platform. It's very moldable. And I love that you're down to earth and you hit people where they are. I mean, finances isn't always an easy thing for people to talk about. Somehow, I mean, it's kind of like that verse, where your heart is. Sometimes we want to protect the things that are so close to us, whether it's, through a shame situation, or whether it's, control, that you feel like you lose control if you get outside input. But I always like to tell people, who you surround yourself with, who you put in your bucket. I mean, you're only strengthening yourself more. And I love that, you take each person individually and you help them customize a program that helps them from where they're at. And it's not a
Yes.
situation where they're, stuck in this system that can't be changed to meet their needs where they're at. So I love that.
Yes. And I love that the way you articulated that. And that's what I don't sit there and announce that. But when I work with people, I really want to connect with them because I listen to understand,
Mhm.
because it is tough. That
Mhm.
sometimes people are ashamed. And I mean, I was the financial guy, right? And I was broke, but I couldn't see my own picture because I was stuck inside the frame. And you got to ask for help. So one thing is we have a no judgment zone here. It's truly meeting them. And again, I love how you said that. I want to meet people where they are.
Mhm.
And I want them to think of us as we're getting in that boat with them.
Mhm.
And they are flexible. And it's whatever they can do, that's what we're going to do. But they're going to know what they're doing. They're going to be confident, clear, and comfortable. That's the only requirements for me to take on somebody.
Mhm.
Is they're going to be confident, they're going to be clear, and they're going to be very comfortable with what they got. So yeah, that's it. No
And
judgment.
and I love, in the beginning, I have another question. You talked in the beginning about your dynamic with your own father and kind of how, that picture shifted for you in your purpose. And you're raising boys and they're getting closer to college and that kind of thing. So I'd love to get, because I know you say you're so much more involved with your time. You've been able to adjust because you're doing what your purpose is now. You have a lot more time with your family. How has that changed? That has to have had a huge impact in your relationship with your boys as you see them taking off into their, you know, eventual careers at some point. But I can imagine that they're looking at you, and I'd love just a little blurb, that they're little mini entrepreneurs about ready to start. So as you're watching them, what have you seen change in their life since you've been able to change yourself?
Did you want me to get choked up again? Is that what you're doing?
Hey,
Look,
we're real here.
I have a weakness when I talk about my family. It may hit, it may not. Okay, right now I've got my big boy pants on, and let me just try to get through that question.
Yeah, that's the best part about you. You're real, and I need people to see that. You're genuine.
So, one thing that my I have an 18-year-old and I have a 14-year-old, and this happened 2 years ago. This whole revelation in my life, and the first thing that happened was my youngest son said, "Dad, let me see your phone," and I didn't know what he was doing, and I'm not going to be able to show it to you here, but anyway, I thought he wanted to look at some pictures. Well, I got my phone back later on, And the screensaver on my phone said, God created you on purpose for a purpose. And it's
That's
still
awesome.
there. And I will not erase that. So they see it in me.
Mhm.
And I never was a bad dad. And I was always present,
Mhm.
but I was a shell. Right.
Mhm.
So what they're getting from me now is chase their dreams.
Mhm.
And look, the to get to the promises is not without pain. The
Right.
road is often paved with pain.
Mhm.
But you know what? They have their biggest cheerleader. They have their biggest supporter in myself and my wife Dana, and they're going to go after their dreams.
Mhm.
And whatever they want to do, we're going to do whatever we can do to put them in that spot. As long as we're not pushing or pulling more than they're pushing, and as long as they appreciate and not take for granted. But I teach them mindset. You are created on purpose for a purpose. You chase the purpose, and that will unlock the potential that you never realized you had. That
Mhm.
unique gift that God gave you. When you're pursuing purpose, that's when I never thought I'd be talking like this and on podcasts and on stages. Never thought that. But man, that just came out.
Right.
And I love it.
Mhm.
And so it's purpose, and then unlocks the potential. And I just tell them how important alignment is, because if you do that, you unlock that potential. You can be present, you can be profitable, and ultimately you can have peace in your being who you were created to be. And so they hear that all the time. It's all they hear. And with love, they're
Mhm.
going to have hard truth, but they've got grace too.
Well,
It's a balance.
and as a parent too, I mean, you know this too, but you're also getting the 3D perspective where you are watching them as they go through their challenges, because we do fail. And sometimes that's hard to watch, but you also see the good in that based off of what we've been through ourselves, as parents or as individuals. Because you're right. I like how you brought up the failure aspect. And that's one thing that I want people to really hear. And I say this often, that there is no failure in try, because if you don't try, that is the failure. Like, you're never going to know what you could become without at least attempting. It's all about knowledge, and a lot of times we feel like, I'm not going to try something because I don't know something. Well, you're not going to know anything until you take steps to try. To
That's right.
If you're interested in your passion, if you're exploring different things, don't fail once and then never start again. Let yourself fail several times, even if that's your finances. And because that's what leads you to people like Chad, and you get to know the answers, and it's knocking on those doors and finding those answers that's going to lead you to what you're really hungry for. And that's back to that soul searching. That's back to who am I? What am I created for? And, what do I want to do in life? So I
That's
love it,
right.
Chad. Any
Yep.
final thoughts or tips that you want to throw in? And
I read a statistic. 72% of statistics are made up on the spot, right? Get that later. But anyway, I read something where a lot of people don't want rejection. And a lot of people that start businesses, because they're not successful, they fear what other people think about them, or they're told no. If you're in sales, you hear no all the time. This is something that I really, really, really stress to people is there's a real thing called approval addiction.
Mhm.
And you can call it that, or you don't have to call it that. Fear of rejection, approval addiction. You have a fear of rejection because you are an approval addict,
Mhm.
right? And as just coming at you straight, that's why a lot of businesses fail.
Mhm.
And so that's why I said you've got to be so, so solid in your purpose that you get to the point where what you have to offer has so much value that
Mhm.
if that person does not want to be a consumer or a client, you have to tell yourself some will, some
Right.
won't, So what?
Mm-hmm.
But that purpose, you got to go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of the way. I want to talk to somebody who does need me, right? So you got to be strong and super confident in what you're doing. And the last thing that I'll say is we do get stuck on how a lot. How am I going to do this? How does this work? How does this? And you know, as students of Coach Burt, it's not always how, it's who.
Right.
Reach out to the who.
Mm-hmm.
And he certainly saw me for where I was. And I was stuck in that frame and couldn't see my picture, but he has truly, God has used him. God has used him to pull that out in me. And for that, I'm grateful. But
Well,
keep going, guys. That's what I'm telling you. Keep going. Don't stop. Always get back up. Believe in your message, believe in your purpose, and believe in your mission, and you'll profit from that, certainly.
yes, and I love how you brought up the who aspect because it's true. Like when we're out there and we're seeking, it's amazing how when you start aligning where you should be, the right people are in your path and they have the knowledge, and when you surround yourself with the right people that are meant to be in your life and these people start coming in, you're only gaining wisdom, and that's just so freeing because now you're not stuck with the I don't know how. You're stuck, you're starting to see the fulfilling of what you're supposed to be doing in life. And it
That's
brings
right.
freedom in your mind and in your heart and everything. So I love it.
Yes.
If someone wants to work with you, Chad, where should they connect with you? Website, social media, or?
Yeah, so I'm actually writing a new book and it's almost done. It's mindsetandmoneyrevolution.com. So you can go there and I kind of mentioned the pyramid, the purpose, potential, present, profitable, and peace. So you can get that, you can pick that up there and we can you can reach out to me and set up a strategy call if you'd like to do that. You can do that by going to chadfree.com and schedule an appointment there. And I'd love to meet you. I'd love to help you any way I can. Like you said, meet you where you are and just show you something. It's all education. It's all
Right.
education. And once you see the education, I think you'll see that there's always a next step to become better. Even the best can become better.
Absolutely. And I can vouch that Chad is definitely one of those people that are easy to talk to, down to earth. And again, like I've mentioned before, he and his wife are wonderful. I've met them in person and you will not be disappointed. You won't be faced with any kind of hard questions. It's very open and genuine. He's the real deal. So definitely check out his website. Chad, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm sure we'll connect again at some point. Love to maybe have you on for some other tips at some point down the road. So
Absolutely. I would love that too. Thank you so much for the invite. And I look forward to meeting some of your guests. So get on my schedule. I'd love to help you any way I can.
absolutely.